here as the offensive coordinator?
Well, I've been writing, and I don't know if this is coming through or not loud and clear enough, but I have been writing that I think there's a world in which Tommy could end up going with Kevin. I have written that in a few of my stories. I think I have to maybe further bolster the fact that I have been saying that because I'm not sure it's getting out there enough. But I do
saw
think
you wrote it, Mary Kay. I read it.
Thank you. Sometimes if things don't end up in the headline, a lot of times with today's consumption of media, if it's
Yeah, we all know Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees played collegiately at Notre Dame. He was a quarterback himself. And then he went on under the Nick Saban regime at Alabama. And you guys got to understand something. Some quarterbacks that played collegiately might have a full grasp and understanding about quarterbacks. But there's some guys that play quarterbacks that really don't give you a great evaluation, such as Dan Orlowski. That's one guy that we can't take serious. But Tommy Rees seems like he was delighted when he was speaking about Shedeur Sanders.
Mary Kay Cabot just dropped an absolute bombshell that nobody's talking about, and it completely changes everything we thought about Tommy Rees and Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. While everyone's focused on the coaching search, Mary Kay buried the real story. Tommy Rees might be leaving with Kevin Stefanski, and this opens up a massive question. Was Tommy Rees part of the reason Shedeur never got a fair shot? Think about it. Stefanski's offensive coordinator, his right-hand man, refused to give Shedeur practice reps all season, and now they might both be heading to Atlanta together? This isn't just a coaching change. This is a coordinated exit strategy after sabotaging a rookie's entire season. In the Browns, they're about to face a decision that could define Shedeur's entire career. Stay locked in, because what Mary Kay just revealed changes absolutely everything.
You know what? It depends. It depends on who this new head coach is and what he sees in this quarterback room right now. And if he likes what he sees, then they will move forward, and Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders will compete for that starting job if the new coach likes what the room consists of right now. If the new coach doesn't appreciate fully what the room consists of right now, then he will be given the opportunity to either draft a quarterback, trade for a quarterback, or sign a quarterback in free agency. So I think it's to be determined.
Look, I need you to understand something right now. What Mary Kay Cabot just revealed in this interview isn't getting the attention it deserves. Everyone's too busy talking about Jim Schwartz, Grant Udinski, and all these potential head coaching candidates. But Mary Kay dropped a line that should have every Shedeur Sanders supporter's ears ringing. She said, and I quote, "I think there's a world in which Tommy Rees could end up going with Kevin." Tommy Rees, Kevin Stefanski's offensive coordinator, the guy who was supposed to develop Shedeur Sanders, the guy who had direct control over the offensive game plan, the practice reps, the quarterback development. And now we're finding out he might be packing his bags and following Stefanski to Atlanta? Let that marinate for a second. This whole season, we've been pointing fingers at Kevin Stefanski for the way Shedeur was treated, and rightfully so. Stefanski was the head coach. It was his responsibility. But what if Tommy Rees was just as complicit? What if this was a two-man operation to make sure Shedeur Sanders never got a legitimate opportunity to succeed in Cleveland? Think about the timeline here. The Browns draft Shedeur Sanders. Andrew Berry forces Stefanski's hand by trading away Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, Stefanski's guys. Stefanski is pissed. He doesn't want Shedeur. He wanted his veteran quarterbacks. So what does he do? He gives Dylan Gabriel all the practice reps. And who's running those practices? Who's designing the offensive scheme? Tommy Rees. Tommy Rees, the former Notre Dame offensive coordinator who Stefanski personally brought to Cleveland. Tommy Rees, who had every opportunity to design an offense that would maximize Shedeur's strengths. Tommy Rees, who instead created a system that exposed every possible weakness while providing historically bad protection. And now, according to Mary Kay Cabot, there's a legitimate possibility that Tommy Rees follows Kevin Stefanski out the door. They came in together, and they might be leaving together. But what they're leaving behind is a complete mess at the quarterback position, and a rookie whose confidence and development were completely sabotaged. Mary Kay tried to downplay it a little bit. She said, "I don't know if this is coming through loud and clear enough." And you know what? She's right. It's not coming through loud and clear enough. Because if people really understood what she was saying, this would be the biggest story in Cleveland right now.
Do you view Jim Schwartz's candidacy as in that same way where it's like, if these other guys maybe aren't it or we don't think they're ready, he's the guy for us?
Well, that could be it, but I also think that they feel that Jim is a very strong candidate in his own right, despite everything else that's going on. So I don't think it's just, if we can't get one of these guys, we'll hire Jim. I don't think it's like that at all. I think they really see the merits of Jim Schwartz in and of himself and know what he can bring to the table, both from a defensive standpoint and a leadership standpoint.
Let me connect the dots for you. Kevin Stefanski is interviewing in Atlanta. By all accounts, he's the front-runner for that job. The Falcons are trying not to let him leave the building. And when Kevin Stefanski becomes the Atlanta Falcons head coach, who do you think he's going to want as his offensive coordinator? The guy he's been working with, the guy he trusts, Tommy Rees. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Mary Kay was asked directly, if Jim Schwartz ends up being the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns, do you think it's likely that Tommy Rees stays here as the offensive coordinator? And her response basically confirmed what we've been suspecting. Tommy Rees isn't staying in Cleveland. He's gone. And that means the Browns are going to have a brand new offensive coordinator, a brand new offensive scheme, and Shedeur Sanders is going to have to learn everything all over again. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, isn't that a good thing? Didn't we want Tommy Rees gone? And yeah, you're absolutely right. If Tommy Rees was part of the problem, and all evidence suggests he was, then getting him out of Cleveland is addition by subtraction. But here's the issue. Shedeur Sanders just wasted an entire year of development under a coordinator who either didn't believe in him or actively worked against him. That's a year he's never getting back. Let's talk about what we know Tommy Rees did, or more accurately, didn't do, for Shedeur Sanders this season. He didn't design plays that got the ball out quickly, despite having one of the worst offensive lines in NFL history. He didn't scheme up ways to protect his rookie quarterback. He didn't adjust the game plan when it became painfully obvious that the pocket was collapsing on nearly half of Shedeur's dropbacks. And remember those practice reps that Dillon Gabriel was getting? Those weren't just Stefanski's decision. Tommy Rees was the offensive coordinator. He had input on who was getting reps with the first team. He had influence over who was running which plays in practice. And week after week, he chose Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders. Now here's where this gets personal for me. I've been covering this story all season. I've been watching the way the Browns handled Shedeur Sanders, and it's been infuriating. But I always assumed it was mostly on Stefanski. The head coach sets the tone. The head coach makes the final decisions. And Kevin Stefanski clearly didn't want Shedeur Sanders on his roster. But what if Tommy Rees was whispering in his ear the whole time? What if every time Andrew Berry or the ownership tried to push for giving Shedeur more opportunities, Tommy Rees was backing up Stefanski's decision to stick with Dillon Gabriel? We don't know for sure, but the fact that they might be leaving together tells you everything you need to know about their partnership.
Yeah, I think for any individual, like, you are able to step away a little bit, right? Like, you're so in the weeds during the season of the game plan and looking at things through a very specific lens. I think when you step away from the season, you have the opportunity to look at it maybe from a different vantage point. You can take your time a little bit looking at things and where you improve. You face this sometimes when players get injured and they have to step away from being in the huddle and looking at it on the field. Like, sometimes you have a new perspective of stepping away and seeing things, and it helps you as you move forward. I think when you get out of the rush of, hey, I'm a rookie, I'm playing, I'm preparing, all of this is new to me, all of this is a lot, I'm trying to manage that. I think when you have a little bit more time to be patient.
Mary Kay also dropped another interesting nugget in this interview. When asked about the quarterback room next year, she said it completely depends on who the new head coach is. If he likes what he sees, then Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders will compete for that starting job. If the new coach doesn't appreciate fully what the room consists of right now, then he will be given the opportunity to either draft a quarterback, trade for a quarterback, or sign a quarterback in free agency. Read between the lines here. The Browns are giving their next head coach complete control over the quarterback situation. And that means Shedeur Sanders' entire future in Cleveland is going to be determined by whoever they hire in the next couple of weeks. If they hire someone like Grant Udinsky or Nate Shieldhorse, young, offensive-minded coaches from the Sean McVay tree, there's a chance Shedeur gets a legitimate opportunity. These guys understand modern quarterback play. They know how to scheme around a young quarterback's weaknesses while maximizing their strengths. But if they hire someone who comes in with their own ideas about what the quarterback position should look like, Shedeur could be right back in the same situation he was in with Stefanski and Rees. Another year of being the backup, another year of not getting practice reps, another year of his development being completely stunted. And here's the kicker. This is exactly what the NFL wanted. They've been trying to push Shedeur Sanders out from day one. The collusion, the historically bad offensive line support, the refusal to give him a fair shot. It's all been part of a coordinated effort to make sure Shedeur fails. And now, with Stefanski and potentially Tommy Rees leaving, the Browns have a chance to either double down on supporting Shedeur or completely abandon him. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Jim Schwartz. Mary Kay made it very clear that the Browns absolutely love what they have in Jim Schwartz on the defensive side of the ball, and there's a very real possibility that he becomes the next head coach. But here's my question. If Jim Schwartz becomes the head coach, who becomes the offensive coordinator? Mary Kay didn't have an answer for that, and that's concerning, because Shedeur Sanders needs stability. He needs a coordinator who believes in him, who's going to design an offense around his strengths, and who's going to give him the tools to succeed. If the Browns hire Jim Schwartz and then have to scramble to find an offensive coordinator, that's just more uncertainty piled onto an already unstable situation. But let's flip this for a second. What if Tommy Rees leaving is actually the best thing that could happen to Shedeur Sanders? What if getting rid of the offensive coordinator who helped sabotage his rookie season opens the door for someone who actually wants to develop him? Think about the possibilities here. If the Browns hire a young offensive mind like Grant Udinsky or Nate Shieldhorse, they're bringing in their own offensive coordinator, someone who's going to implement a modern, quarterback-friendly offense, someone who understands that you can't ask a rookie to operate under historic pressure rates and expect him to succeed. And if they hire Jim Schwartz and keep the defensive side humming, they could bring in an elite offensive coordinator who specializes in developing young quarterbacks, someone like Brian Daboll or Shane Steichen, coaches who've proven they can take raw talent and turn it into productive NFL starters. This is the crossroads moment for Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland. Tommy Rees leaving creates a vacuum, and that vacuum can either be filled with someone who genuinely wants to help Shedeur succeed, or it can be filled with another coordinator who sees him as an inconvenience.
Handling all that as you head into this finale?
Yeah, I think the outside enjoys that stuff a lot more than, or pays a lot more attention to it than we do in the building. You know, we take off of Kevin's leadership, which is excellent. And look, we work long hours. We don't have a whole lot of time to do a lot else except try to get our guys ready to play and get our guys ready to, face the opponent of the week. And look, we're pretty rhythmic in how our weeks roll. And so a lot of us are in a routine and we kind of know what we're doing every hour.
The Browns are interviewing all these candidates right now. Grant Udinsky, Nate Shieldhorse, Mike McDaniel, Jim Schwartz, all these guys are getting their shot to make their case. And part of that case has to be, what are you going to do with Shedeur Sanders? Because here's the reality. Shedeur Sanders survived a historically difficult rookie season. He operated under the worst conditions any quarterback has faced in modern NFL history. And despite all of that, despite the sabotage, despite the lack of support, despite having an offensive coordinator who apparently never believed in him, he's still here. He's still on the roster. He's still fighting for his opportunity. Mary Kay also mentioned something interesting about the coaching search timeline. She said, in a perfect world, the Browns would love to name their guy by next week. The combine is right around the corner, staffs are being assembled, and the Browns need to have their infrastructure in place before they start making decisions about the draft and free agency. But here's what that means for Shedeur. His entire future is going to be decided in the next 7 to 10 days. The Browns are going to hire a head coach. That head coach is going to assemble a staff, and somewhere in that process, decisions are going to be made about whether Shedeur Sanders is part of the long-term plan or not. And I'll be honest with you, I'm nervous. Not because I don't believe in Shedeur's talent, I absolutely do, but because I've watched how this organization has handled him so far, and it hasn't been good. They drafted him, then immediately created an environment where he couldn't succeed. They gave him the worst offensive line in football, they refused to give him practice reps, and they had a coaching staff that clearly didn't want him there. Now, with Stefanski gone and Tommy Rees potentially leaving, the Browns have a chance to hit the reset button. They can bring in a coaching staff that actually wants to develop Shedeur. They can design an offense that plays to his strengths. They can give him the protection and the weapons he needs to show what he's really capable of. But they could also do the exact opposite. They could hire a coach who wants to bring in his own quarterback. They could use a high draft pick on another QB. They could sign a veteran in free agency and push Shedeur even further down the depth chart. Here's what I know about Shedeur Sanders. The kid is resilient. He's been dealing with doubters and haters his entire life. He's been called overrated. He's been accused of being a product of his father's name. He's faced more scrutiny than any rookie quarterback in recent memory. And through all of it, he's kept his head down and worked. This situation with Tommy Rees potentially leaving, it's just another obstacle, another challenge, another opportunity for Shedeur to prove people wrong. But it's also a reminder of just how unfair this whole process has been. Shedeur Sanders deserved better than what he got in his rookie season. He deserved coaches who believed in him. He deserved an offensive coordinator who would design plays to maximize his success. He deserved practice reps and development time and all the things that every other first-round quarterback gets. Instead, he got Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees, two guys who apparently never wanted him there in the first place, two guys who are now both looking for the exit door. And you know what? Good riddance. If they don't want to be part of building something special with Shedeur Sanders, then the Browns are better off without him. Bring in coaches who actually want to be in Cleveland. Bring in coordinators who see Shedeur's potential instead of viewing him as a problem. The next few weeks are going to determine everything. The coaching hire, the offensive coordinator hire, the decisions about the quarterback room, all of it is connected. And Shedeur Sanders' entire NFL future hangs in the balance. So here's where we're at. Mary Kay Cabot just confirmed what a lot of us were already suspecting. Tommy Rees is probably leaving Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. The two architects of Shedeur Sanders' sabotaged rookie season are heading out the door together, and that leaves the Browns at a massive crossroads. Do they hire a coach who actually wants to develop Shedeur? Do they bring in an offensive coordinator who will design a system around his strengths? Or do they go in a completely different direction and start from scratch at the quarterback position? The answer to those questions will determine whether Shedeur Sanders' story in Cleveland is just beginning or already over. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Tommy Rees was part of the problem? Should the Browns commit to Shedeur or move on? And which head coaching candidate gives Shedeur the best chance to succeed? If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're going to be all over this coaching search. Every interview, every rumor, every decision that impacts Shedeur Sanders, we're covering it all. Smash that like button and let's keep this conversation going. Peace and chaos.